Hey everybody, Coach Stacy Lynn here. Today, let's talk about tools, people. You know, in my hand, I hold tools. And I bring this up because as I've been thinking about um, how to share with you stuff I work with, it occurred to me this morning as I was planting some stuff, which I did. Check this out, people. All right, so have you ever seen this? This is like a little greenhouse. I didn't know this stuff existed until a little while ago, but it's really cool because, the lids come off, and in here you have a uh, a little thing you can turn, you know, to let humidity in and out and stuff like that. And then you have soil, which is in this case starter soil. All right. And then what's really cool about this little kit is that when you take it out, you'll be able to see the roots or whatever's growing and the water that when you water it will actually go inside this part. So you put this back in and then you put this on top. And I know you're super curious when I planted, aren't you? I hope so. I'm going to tell you what I planted. What I planted was seeds, people. Yeah, I did. You're like, what kind of seeds did you plant, Stacy? Coach Stacy Lynn. Um, well, seeds that hopefully will grow. Actually, no, here, I'll show you. So I bought these edible flower seeds here because I have a good friend that I sent this pack to for her birthday. And inside here, we have lots of different seeds. And what's really cool about it is, you have echinacea. But what's really cool is on the back, it tells you how to grow them, right? So if you're a newbie like me, um, you need a lot of instruction. So I bought these seeds and they have a whole bunch of different things. By the way, none of these I planted. They're all still here. But in case you're curious, and I know you are, I won't like make you wait forever. I planted chicory. I know you were thinking that, weren't you? Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I actually planted chicory, um, cucumbers, which that's like a big thing, and and one other thing, some type of onion thing. I don't remember the name of it. It's in my other room. But anyway, I bring this up because as I venture into this new hobby of trying to grow things from scratch, from simple seeds, there's a few things that I have discovered, right? Number one, I discovered that there is starter soil. Did you know that? Some of you probably did. Some of you are probably like uber gardeners. But I discovered starter soil. I did not know that there was starter soil. And that actually made me think about when I work with people, that's where I start. I start with a very base foundation because I need to know what their initial foundation was. So, like, for example, if you were raised in a very chaotic home, then you probably think kind of chaotically. If you were raised in a very peaceful home, well, then you probably think pretty peacefully, right? Or you at least have some security. So that actually goes to your attachment style, right? So the other thing I discovered, and which was really cool, is this. I know, right? This is actually um, the little tool that they give you. to put into the soil. You got to dig it into the soil, and then you put the seeds in there, and then you take this out. And honestly, it's so funny because when I was reading reviews, and I in particularly got this, I was like fascinated because this came with these tools. That's where these came from. And a whole bunch of people were talking about how important this tool was. And it's funny because, it's just something to put in the ground, right? And kind of make a little hole. You can do that with a finger, right? You can do it with a spoon. You can do it with other instruments. It's not rocket science. And yet, I have to tell you that when I took this and I put it in that soil and I went like this and pulled it back up, the hole was perfect. And I was like, this is so cool. So anyway, um, and and really, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, wow, you know, you can be given tons of different tools to do something, but there are actually tried and true tools to communication, right? So if you can learn to identify your feelings, just as an example, you can start saying I feel and then fill in the blank, or I am hurt, I am tired, uh, stuff like that. Those tools, when you use them over and over again, they actually give you really good results. Now, this is the other interesting basic tool, which happens to be the labels, right? Now, who hasn't seen somewhere at a nursery where you got 5 million labels that you could write on what it is or how long it's been in there or whatever? And this is so basic, right? Now, I could have simply used an index card, people, right? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I don't know what I have written on there, but I could have cut this out. I could have made this and blah, blah. But some brilliant soul came up with this idea, and this has become the standard tool on how to label whatever it is you grow. Try something like this, it might not work as well. So it's interesting because it makes me wonder, how long did it take to come up with this tool to make it the standard? How many things did the people have to go through to discover this? Good question, isn't it? So there was also another tool in here. Let's see here. Tweezers. Ugh. Now these tweezers actually are really pathetic. Actually, they're really useless in my opinion. You could do it this way, you could do it that way. I tried to pick up the seeds, and it didn't. It was I was like, forget it. I ain't even going there. You need big seeds to use these. It didn't. It wasn't that good. Um, then you have this, right? This is the little top part of the lid I showed you earlier, right here. So you can actually let your humidity out and all that, and close it up to give it more humidity in order forever, whatever it is that you're growing. Ah, there we go. And it actually did take me a minute to get that thing to clip on. So, and then the one other tool that they gave in this little kit, which I don't have here at my desk, was a little a cutter, like, and you see this band-aid on my finger. That's because when I tried to use it, I cut myself. And I cut myself not from this part, the cut part, but from the bottom part that squeezes because it doesn't separate, and my finger like got in between that part. So I didn't cut myself badly, which fortunately that would have been a bummer. But my husband, he was my hero. I was like, honey, I just cut myself. He ran upstairs, got a band-aid and some um what do you call it? Ointment, antibacterial stuff or whatever it's called. And he put it on my bleeding finger and wrapped my finger up so that I wouldn't get infected. Again, other tools. right? So we're all used to certain tools, like this, for example, Advil. Got a headache and some pain, little inflammation and some pain, Advil Dual works really good. One thing I did discover though was when I had surgery on my tongue a while back, I took Advil and it didn't help at all. You know why? Because Advil only helps with inflammation. It doesn't actually help with pain. Tylenol actually helps with pain. And they've actually discovered that the two of them working together, actually you can take less and it's more effective than either one of them separately. So why do I share all this? I share it because as I've been thinking about my clients, the people that I coach, the people that listen to me here, I wanted to give you a tool to think about over the next coming days. And that tool is to think about the things you use and what you use them for. So, just like I've given you all these examples of these new things that I'm using, and I'm learning as I learn to grow things from scratch, right? From the seed up. Um, I'm going to learn things like I learned about starter soil. Did not know about that. And it was really fun too, because I bought this block and I poured water on it. And then I had this other tool where I scraped it off and and it came up that way. I was like, this is so cool. Because I always thought soil just came in a bag as loose soil. I didn't know starter soil, you can get it in a block. I had no idea. And it's the same way with communication and coaching, right? A lot of times people pigeonhole coaching or even therapy, and they think it's one thing, and this is how it is because primarily because of how it's been depicted in the media, which is always one way, right? And yet, I have to tell you that some of the most effective things that you can learn are from people who have learned a lot of things and have a very big tool belt. And I happen to have a very big tool belt. In fact, I remember talking to a good friend of mine. She's actually my mentor in one of our last meetings together. Um, I thanked her for coaching me and for mentoring me all these years. And I said, I want you to know that I have a really big tool belt. And she said, you do? Because I was telling her once, I told her, I said, did you know that I talked to somebody not too long ago who didn't know this, and I filled in the what that was. And and to me it was very basic that everybody should know, but this person didn't know it. And then I thought back to 30 years ago when I didn't know it, right? And we're all in different places. We're all in different areas of growth, just like my plants are. Just like these plants, I've got three different ones I'm excited about looking at to see who wins in growing, who's going to grow quicker. How much work am I going to have to put in getting one of them to grow versus the other one? And then tending it and caring for it, looking at the fruit. What is it going to look like? It's all it's all really different. And they all are going to need specific nurturing, and they're all going to need a specific type of environment, different levels of water, and all of that. And that's how you are, right? You are different. God created you fearfully and absolutely wonderfully. And, you know, if you get nothing from this video, if you've watched this far, I want you to know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. God knit you together. He formed you in your mother's womb. Even before your days were numbered, He knew you, and He knew the number of those days, what they were going to be. And He also knew the course of your life, so your life is worth living. But through your life, you're going to pick up a tool here and there, and sometimes that tool isn't going to work good. Other times it's going to work great. And for me, I think part of the fun is learning what works, and then you pass on to other people what works, right? Now, we already know what doesn't work, right? But I think it's harder for people to find out what does work. And here, me, Coach Stacy Lynn, my foundational tool is scripture and prayer and looking at what God says and how to do it. And I don't think it's a mistake that God put Adam and Eve in a garden. I just don't. Matter of fact, I know it wasn't a mistake. And I also don't think it's a mistake that as many people get older, they go into gardening. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. It's just a theory. But one of those reasons I think is because gardening gives you something to tend and then you eventually see the fruit. Um, it's different than taking care of an actual animal. And there are different things that I believe God can teach us through gardening. I've had so many friends over my life, most of them older than me. That's what they did. And now I'm at that stage in my life where I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to garden. And what are you going to teach me as I work with different plants and try to plant things? And what am I going to learn? And you are in a garden. You are in a specific garden right now in your life. Some of you are really surrounded by weeds and you're trying to figure out what the heck. And I think a lot of those people, I think a lot of that could be false teaching that you've gotten in the church. I think it could be false teachers you listen to. It could be faulty discipleship, right? Some of you are in really good gardens. You've already seen lots of fruit, and you are trying to figure out how to make your garden grow even bigger and multiply it by mentoring and discipling other people. That's kind of where I'm at, I think. Although I'm starting my literal teeny weeny garden. So, and I think this is so cute. It's funny, and I'll end here because I know you guys know me. I could go on and on forever. I do think it's interesting that we all began as a seed. And I also think what's really interesting, at least for me, what was really interesting was when I planted these three different things, all of the seeds looked completely different. And yet I know, and this is the cool thing, I know that planting them in soil and watering them, they're all going to grow, even though they're all different. And I'm excited because God created botany, right? Isn't that the study of plants? I hope I got that right. And he programmed whatever's in those little seeds to grow. And of course, you and me, we were an egg and a sperm put together, two types of quote seeds, if you will. Actually, the sperm's a seed. I think the egg is just an egg. But together, there we were inside our mom's womb. And then we grew. And the beauty of watching a baby come into the world is just that. It's beautiful. I have quite a few friends right now that are pregnant and getting ready to have babies. And I keep thinking it all started with a flash, came from a seed, and God created it. So, um, so I just thought I'd share that today. I hope that it makes you think. And feel free if you've watched this far, let me know. Do you garden? Do you have gardening tips for me? Have you planted things from scratch? What kind of tools do you use? Give the coach some tips, would you? All right, and I'll see you soon. Okay, have a good day and make it a better day.